Okay, so today we're talking about light and color, and this is our last unit of the year. So light is an electromagnetic wave. So basically, it's like if this part right here, if this were the light wave, this is the light wave, right? There we go, that's good enough. Okay, so this is the light wave. So this is a transverse wave. They do not require a medium to travel. Which means they can travel through a vacuum, which is like space. Space is vacuum. They are classified by their frequency. And when traveling through a vacuum, all light waves travel at, and you learned this in chemistry, 3 × 10⁸ meters per second in a vacuum. So they all travel at the exact same speed in a vacuum, okay? So I don't want to explain too much about this picture because I don't want to scare you, but this is more, this isn't really so much for our particular thing, but like if this were the light wave, it creates an electric field, and the magnetic field is perpendicular to the electric field. And so we call them electromagnetic waves, and the propagation of the waves goes in one direction, but the waves themselves go up and down. Does that make sense? So anyway, but this is called a transverse wave, is basically what you're looking at in terms of just the light portion, okay? But light is a combination of both, which is why it's called an electromagnetic wave. All right, so you've seen this formula before. This is on your formula sheet. This is where c is the speed of light in a vacuum, which is 3 × 10⁸ meters per second. Okay, and the lambda, this is wavelength, which is in meters and not anything else, just meters. And then frequency, which is in hertz, which is a cycle per second. Okay, so you're going to use this formula to calculate the wavelength to the corresponding frequency of light, or to the frequency with the corresponding wavelength of light. But the c is the same. It's a constant. So think of it, it's a constant, starts with c, so it's a constant. Okay. All right, and then I know you've probably seen this before, but this is the entire electromagnetic spectrum, minus cosmic radiation, but we don't really talk about cosmic radiation, so I'm not going to worry about it too much for you. Okay, but you have radio waves. So this is gamma to radio, and you've probably seen it in reverse, which is fine, but it's important to note that the radio end, these have a longer wavelength, a lower frequency, and lower energy waves. Okay, so think of them as like they look like big fat waves. Okay, and then you have on the other end you have gamma, which technically you have cosmic over here. It's even worse than gamma, but whatever. We don't see those on our planet, so we're not going to worry about it. But you have shorter wavelengths, higher frequency of waves, which results in a higher energy. So these are like think of it as like a lie detector, and over here you have like this is the truth, and over here these are lies. So higher frequency, higher energy waves, shorter wavelength, that's going to be your that's going to be the end of the electromagnetic spectrum with gamma rays, or as approaching gamma rays, and then the shorter the longer wavelength with lower frequency with less energy waves, these are going to be the radio end. Okay. All right, so then what are these used for? So radio waves are used for communication. Okay, and they can go over long ranges because they have such long wavelengths. They can travel really far. Microwave radiation, this is also used for communication for the most part. Like your phone will do this. When your phone is in roam, it's using microwave radiation. This is over a shorter range. Okay, so those will be what we're using microwaves for. Infrared radiation, think of this as heat or heat seeking. A lot of our weapons technology uses infrared radiation. For visible light, this is basically what you as a puny human can see, what you can see. So this is a very small range of frequencies that humans see. Okay. Put that in parentheses. All right, ultraviolet radiation. This is what the sun does. The sun shines on you, and it's shining some UV light, which is why you need sunscreen. We also use UV radiation in sterilization because it kills stuff. Like it kills bacteria and viruses, so we use it in sterilization. Like if you ever go to the dentist, you usually have to pay like a $5 fee for using their autoclave. It usually uses a combination of infrared radiation and ultraviolet radiation to sterilize the tools that the dentist uses on you. They use it in hospitals as well, a lot. They actually have robots that shine UV light on everything in all of their operating rooms before they do any kind of surgeries. Okay, so X-ray radiation, we use this also in the medical field. Like think of actual X-rays, like to see damage to tissues, hard tissues. We also can use it in industrial technology. Sometimes they use it obviously in airports when they're trying to detect what's in your luggage, looking for bad things that may hurt you. And then gamma rays, for the most part, the good things that we use these for are going to be also in the medical field, but it will be generally reserved for cancer identification and treatment. So use it for a lot of things actually in the medical field, not just that, but that's mainly what it's going to be used for. Okay? All right, moving on. Okay, so the wave duality, the wave particle duality nature of light, basically, we're not going to worry about what the double slit experiment is, but when this guy did the double slit experiment, what he found out is light waves can do these 5 things. They can reflect, which means they can bounce off a surface. So like mirrors. Mirrors reflect. They can refract, which means they bend due to a medium. So think of this as like lenses or a lens. They can diffract. So you've heard all of these words before. We're using them in a different place though, which means they can spread out. They can interfere. And you remember what that means. That's when you have a wave plus another wave and you get a new wave. Sometimes it's destructive, sometimes it's constructive, depends on the waves. And they can polarize. So this is a new term for you, polarize, which means that they can align in the same direction. Okay, so think of like a flashlight. When you shine a flashlight, it has light waves that move in multiple directions at once. So they don't all just go like this. Some of them can go like this. Some go kind of halfway between. Some go the other way, halfway between. As they diffract, they spread out and they can go in multiple different directions. Okay? So when you have polarized sunglasses, you have a filter in there and it blocks polarized light. So you can block all the light waves going in a certain direction. So an ideal polarized filter can block out about 50% of the light if it's going one way and perpendicular. That's not really what happens. Generally, it's in multiple different directions. It's not just this way and this way. But anyway, but an ideal polarized filter will block out 50% of it. When you have lenses, in 3D glasses, they are oppositely polarized. So they're basically enhancing the light in one direction, which is why when you look at something with 3D glasses, it looks like it's jumping out at you. It's not, but it looks like that. Okay, and then I don't want to talk too much about the photoelectric effect because it's not super important, and you've already done this stuff in chemistry, so I don't want to make you have like flashbacks. But basically, photoelectric effect, your electromagnetic waves, they consist of massless particles called photons. So if light had a particle, it would be called a photon. A photon is like a light particle. So a photon is like a little packet of energy. So photons are basically pure energy. So the superposition of a large number of photons has the characteristics of a continuous electromagnetic wave. So really your takeaway from this is just that a photon is a massless bundle of energy, and they are emitted when electrons transition from higher to lower energy levels in an atom. So right now you're sitting somewhere where you have light in your room or from the computer screen, and it's like raining down on you. There's a bunch of photons just being smacked onto you, and you can't feel them though because they're massless. So it's just pure energy. That's all it is. And they're being emitted because the electrons that make up the screen that you're looking at or the light bulb that you're looking at, like their electrons are being given energy through electrical stimulation, and they're jumping to higher energy levels, and as they relax down to lower energy levels, they give off photons of light. That's all. Okay, and so again, you did learn that in chemistry. That's nothing new. Okay, all right, so let's talk about colors. The colors of visible light that you can see are denoted by Roy G. Biv. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And this also is not new. There's probably a song that some teacher along the way in elementary or middle school taught you. But the red end, so the red, these have the lowest frequency, which means they have the longest wavelengths. And the violet end, these have the highest frequencies, which means they have the shortest wavelengths. Okay? When you have white light, you have all colors of visible light that you as a puny human can see. The primary colors of light might surprise you, but they are red, blue, and green. Primary pigments, so primary pigment colors, I should say, are magenta, which is like hot, hot pink, cyan, and yellow. So these may be different than what your teachers taught you or your art teacher taught you, but if you have a color printer, this makes a lot of sense because you have black ink, which is all of the colors mixed together, all the primary pigment colors mixed together, or you have a magenta, a cyan, and a yellow. Okay, so look in your printer, you'll see what I mean if it's a color printer. Okay, moving on. All right, so color addition, and this is a lot of your homework is talking about color addition. So you have your primary colors of light. So you have white light is all the primary colors of light. And so the primary colors of light are going to be red and green and blue. The combination of red light and blue light gives you magenta light. The combination of red light and green light gives you yellow light. The combination of blue light and green light gives you cyan light. So the primary colors, okay, so primary colors of light are red, blue, and green. The secondary colors of light are magenta, cyan, and yellow. Okay, so they are a little different. Sorry. So your secondary colors result from adding two primary colors together. Okay? Then we have this thing called complementary colors. So if you add two complementary colors together, you get white light in terms of just light. So if I added red light is across this color wheel from cyan. Red is the complementary to cyan. Complementary to cyan. So cyan contains blue and green. So if you mix blue, green, and red, you get white. So it stands to reason if you mix cyan with red, you get white light. Okay? So you have complementary colors. So, and they're across the wheel from each other. Mix blue with yellow, you get white. Mix green with magenta, you get white. Okay? So you have your complementary colors. That's where you mix a primary and a secondary. And you get white light. Okay. The primary colors of pigment are the secondary colors of light. So magenta, yellow, and cyan. So in terms of pigment, okay, magenta mixed with magenta pigment mixed with yellow pigment gives you red pigment. Cyan pigment with yellow gives you green. Cyan with magenta gives you blue, sort of thing, okay? So the pigment is made basically of these two things, or this is made of these two things, okay? So when you're looking, color subtraction is basically what you see, okay? So just so you know, the colors of light we see are due to light that is reflected, not absorbed, okay? So, give you a couple of examples. So here's an example. So here I've got a green fabric or paper, okay? And I shine white light on it. So if I shine white light, I've got a red ray that shines on it. I've got a green ray that shines on it. And I've got a blue ray that shines on it. The fabric will reflect what it's made of and absorb everything else. So it will reflect the green only, okay? So what's happening here is I'm shining white light on a green fabric, and the green light is being reflected. So you see green. Okay, so let's do another example. Let's say I had it's maybe a little harder to see. Let's say I had a yellow fabric. Okay? And I'm going to shine white light on it. So I'm going to shine white light, which means I have a red and a green and a blue. Okay? Because I'm shining white light on it. Yellow is made of red and green. Okay, so it will reflect what it's made of, and it will absorb everything else. Okay, so it will absorb the blue, but it will reflect the green, and it will reflect the red. Okay, so this is why you can see yellow. So let's do a few more examples. So let's say I have green light on magenta, like a magenta fabric. What color do I see? And let's do green light on cyan fabric or sheet of paper, and magenta light on yellow. Okay, and you should know if something absorbs all the colors of light that are shined on it, it will reflect nothing, which means it will look black. So why don't you take a second, pause the video, and figure out what this is, okay? All right, so if I have green light on magenta, I have green light on magenta. Magenta is made of red and blue. So it will absorb the green light and it will look black. If I have green light on cyan, cyan is made of blue and green, so it will reflect the green, so it will look green. If I have magenta light on yellow, so magenta is made of red and blue. Yellow is made of red and green, so it will only reflect the red. So magenta light on yellow makes something look red. Okay, so cool. All right, and last little thing. What do human eyes have in them that makes them see these things? Okay, so we have rod cells. Rod cells can tell you light versus dark, so they let light in with a certain intensity. And your rod cells can contract and release to let in more or less light. And then you also have cone cells, and these see color. Okay, and you have 3 types of cone cells. I'll bet you know what they are. They are red, blue, and green. Okay, all right, so you have homework with color and light, and you don't have to do number 3 and 4 on your homework packet. For color and light, I feel like that's not going to be on your test or your quiz. I'm not going to worry about polarizing light. I did talk about it a little, but I'm not going to worry about too much about polarizing. So don't worry about, oh no, number 4 and 5, that's what it is. Number 4 and 5, don't bother with 4 and 5. The rest of them I think you can manage to at least attempt, okay? See you later.